barren queen gets pregnant after eating the heart of a sea monster. She gives birth to a baby boy that night under the watchful eyes of the crowd, but the controlling queen has no idea the boy will make her pay a painful price. A few days earlier, circus performers were invited to the palace of the Kingdom of Long Trellis. The king and other royals are all amused by them, except for the queen, who is a poker face. Suddenly, a female clown is splashed with a bucket of water, revealing her bulging belly. Seeing that she is pregnant, the queen becomes very jealous. She leaves the hall in a rage, slams the door and starts breaking things. It turns out that the queen suffers from a rare disease that prevents her from having children. The king begs his beloved wife's forgiveness and promises to cure her, even though he has already summoned thousands of doctors and listened to the lies of many charlatans. In the middle of the night, a necromancer visits the royal couple. He claims that he can solve the problem of the queen's pregnancy, but the king and queen must pay the price. For every life calls for a life to be lost. The equilibrium of the world must be maintained. Upon hearing that the queen is willing to die in order to conceive life, he says that the queen can get pregnant immediately by eating the heart of a sea monster, which must be cooked by a virgin, to make his beloved happy. At the crack of dawn, the king set out to the river and venture out to hunt down the sea monster. He dons his armor and waterproof helmet to dive under the water. Then a huge, sleeping monster looms in front of him. The king raises his spear and stabs the sea monster in the head. The sea monster roars in pain and struggles. It throws its scaly tail as hard as it can to knock the king down. The sea monster is soon dragged ashore by the soldiers and its heart is cut out. The king smiles lightly as he touches the heart and closes his eyes forever. However, his heroic sacrifice only earns him a cold glance from the queen. This heart is the one thing she would rather hold in her arms than her husband. An unmarried and pure maid is then given the task of cooking the still beating heart. As soon as the heart is tossed into the pot, a mysterious gas rises. Once she inhales the gas, she feels something terrible. After taking off her coat, she shockingly discovers that her belly is bulging and she's pregnant. The queen, after devouring a large piece of boiled heart, also manages to conceive a baby. The next day, the queen gives birth to a baby boy under the watchful eyes of her ministers and ladies. This is the first time she has smiled in decades of being queen. Meanwhile, the maid also delivers her baby in the basement. With the birth of the two boys, the king's funeral begins. In contrast to the gloomy mourners and neighboring monarchs, the queen cradles her son with joy. She wouldn't even look up at her husband, who had died for her. 16 years have passed since then. The queen's son, Elias, has grown into a pale, white-haired boy under her thumb. Rebellious, he wants to be free from his mother's control. So Elias takes his controlling mother to play hide-and-seek in the labyrinth. The only reason he does this is to secretly meet the maid's son, Jonah. The two of them share the same peculiar appearance and have formed a strong bond due to the influence of the sea monster. While Elias is out of sight of the manipulative queen, Jonah takes him over the wall to escape from the palace. When the queen notices that Elias is missing, she becomes more anxious than ever. As she quickly ascends to the highest point of the castle, she catches sight of the two boys riding away on horseback. She loves her son so much that she hates anyone who tries to take him away from her, so she summons the maid to the palace and gives her a severe scolding. The queen threatens the maid to prevent Jonah from seeing Elias again, or she will banish the poor mother and son from the kingdom. Once Elias is brought back from under the water by guards, he sees the maid leaving in tears. He resents his mother's anger towards the innocent. The queen has taught him since he was a little boy that a prince cannot befriend the son of a servant. But no matter how submissive he appears to be to his mother, he actually considers Jonah to be his brother and soul mate. The queen's life and source of joy has always been her son. Whenever she sees him amused by the bear played by the circus performers, she is overwhelmed with happiness. This is the opposite of her previous indifference to her husband who tried to please her. But her overly possessive and controlling behavior has alienated Elias from her. On this day, she hears the door to Elias's room open and calls him over. She asks Elias which earrings he prefers because she can't make up her mind which earrings to wear to the dinner party. As she hands the earrings to her son, she suddenly realizes that something is wrong. Elias' hand shouldn't have been so rough and calloused from his privileged upbringing, but she still basks in the warmth of the moment when he puts on her earrings. After saying goodbye to her, he excitedly enters the prince's room. It turns out that it was just a trick of the two boys. The boy who put the earrings on the queen was the maid's son, Jonah, not Elias. Realizing that the queen can't tell the difference between the two of them, Elias comes up with a ridiculous idea. He says that when he's ascended to the throne, he'll take turns being king with Jonah. He wants to be free of his mother's manipulation and share the kingdom with Jonah, the other half of his soul. Spying on the son she'd given everything to, now working against her with an outsider. She couldn't control her anger and jealousy any longer. She knocks on the door. Elias rushes to remove the coat Jonah is wearing. The queen holds up Elias's hands and says that he takes on her form.
You have no idea how much I wanted you. How much I sacrificed for you. No one will ever love you like I do.
Is she gaslighting her own son? Anyway, the boys miss her point and don't realize that their carefree lives are going to be completely destroyed from this moment on. Jonah then carries a torch and walks into the secret tunnel that leads from Elias's bedroom to the outside of the palace. When he reaches a dark passage where many dead animals are hanging, suddenly an iron bar hits him in the head. He falls to the ground and finds a way to hide behind a sheep's corpse. It turns out that the queen has been determined to kill Jonah since she spied the two boys plotting. Jonah sneaks out of the darkness as she turns around. After the failed assassination attempt, the queen is so distraught that she can't even smile when she sees her son. She can't let Elias' throne go to someone else, and she can't accept that Elias is trying to get rid of her because of Jonah. She'll do anything to eliminate this threat. While modeling for the painter, Elias gets bored and looks off into the distance. He is astonished to find Jonah on a horse saying goodbye to his mother. He immediately leaves his mother and chases after her, asking where Jonah is going and ordering him to stay. Jonah doesn't tell the truth that he was assassinated by the queen last night and is now on the run. He leads Elias to a huge tree and cuts off a root with a knife. Water quickly flows out of the gaping hole. He tells Elias that if the water runs clear, it means he's safe. If it runs muddy, it means he's in trouble. From then on, this tree becomes Elias' second home, where he checks in every day. Whenever children come to bathe in the spring with their ducks or make a mess, Elias chases them away and clears the water of any dirt. Until the day Elias rides away from the castle on horseback, because he notices that the water has turned red and is covered in bubbles. After a long search through the shabby neighborhood, Elias is suddenly hugged by a woman. Phoenicia excitedly wraps her arms around him and kisses him. Other members of her family also come forward to embrace him and celebrate his return home. Elias then realizes that Jonah is married to this rustic woman. Phoenicia doesn't know that her husband has a friend who looks exactly like him. Then Elias learns from her that Jonah has left home 5 days ago to go to the forest. Since discovering her son's absence, the queen has been going into the forest every day to search for him. For her, a place without her son is no different from hell. The anguish of being separated from Elias drives her insane, so she finds the necromancer.
I want my son back.
The necromancer reminds her that there is a price to pay for everything. If she desires to have her son back so strongly, then she must pay a violent price. Without hesitation, the queen agrees and follows him. Elias heads into the forest to search for Jonah. Trapped in a cave with a broken leg, Jonah hears his voice and cries out for help, but his cries attract a flying monster. This vicious creature tries to kill him through the cracks in the rocks. In the nick of time, Elias spots him and tries to drag him away. When the creature's wings are about to hit Jonah, Elias rushes in front of him. All of a sudden, the monster pauses and puts away its fangs and its eyes become clear. During its hesitation, Elias takes his sword and stabs it to death. Then Jonah, bloodied and weak, is taken home by Elias. After seeing his wife rush out to embrace him, Elias leaves him in despair. He has learned that the more you love someone, the more you need to let them go. What Elias doesn't know is that the monster in the cave that he killed was no other than his mother, who loved him more than her life. The queen who failed to learn how to let go was eventually consumed by her own obsession. At the end of the story, Elias becomes king and attends the coronation of the queen of another country. Having lost his mother and his friend, he will be left alone to rule the kingdom. The theme of every life calls for a life to be lost is emphasized throughout the film. The monster in the sea and the death of the king usher in the birth of two boys. If a mother wants to bring her beloved child home, it will cost her her life. But how long can the balance last if it becomes a trade-off? Another issue we should reflect on is the relationship between mother and child. The queen is a paranoid mother, and her child is more like an object to her. But the existence of the maid's son is a constant reminder that she is not the closest person to her son. The scene in the movie about the chase between mother and son through the labyrinth shows her inability to control her son, who increasingly wants to run away from her. Her selfish and selfless love for her son makes her lose control of herself. The evil in her has turned her into a monster. Even her own son couldn't recognize her ugly face, so he didn't hesitate to kill his mother. But will he find balance or peace after killing his mother in a palace full of intrigue? Will Elias ever miss his mother embracing him the way Jonah's mother did? This is Rainbow Movie. If there's a movie you'd like to watch, feel free to leave a comment and let me know. Let's watch a movie together and experience something different. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.